this camera now. Oh, this is weird. There's another camera to look at. I don't usually do that. All right, welcome back to the Garage Podcast. Today, as we discussed last week, we're doing Silence of the Lambs this week. So we just finished watching it. Cameron, how was the length of the movie? Was it too long?
No, it was perfect.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's a reference to our other podcast, last week's podcast. Anyway, so we watched Silence of the Lambs. Very solid mystery thriller film. That's fine.
Don't worry Okay, worry about it.
It's a very solid mystery thriller, and I feel like there's a lot going on in that film, like a lot more beyond the surface level of it just being a mystery thriller. And I'm Louie.
My name's Cameron.
I'm Sergio.
Watch him not even get in frame there.
And no, I think he is. Now. Anyways, so welcome to the GarageCast, the film podcast. So what stuck out to you guys the most? What do you want to talk about first?
I guess we might as well start with the beginning. What was Jodie Foster's character's name? I literally just referred to her as Jodie.
Clarice. I don't remember her last name, but Clarice.
Well, it's only because she said it in such a weird way.
Well, I remember her name strictly because of The Office.
Oh, yeah.
When he cuts off the face of the CPR dummy and puts it on, he's like, Clarice.
Clarice Starling.
Starling,
yeah,
that's right. Let's start off literally right with the very beginning where she's training extremely hard and you can see that she's putting in a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Right then and there we know that's a character that is like in an environment that you don't normally find women in. Mm-hmm. And yet she's excelling, or she's doing her best to excel. You know what I'm saying?
She is one of the most well-written characters in any like recent film that I've seen that I can think of. She's one of the most well-written characters in general. Not only the most like well-written female character, but just the most well-written character in general. Yeah. She
as far as modern films go.
Modern films, yeah.
I'm just thinking of like other films that I've seen with characters that I like. She's just very well-written. She let's see, what do I have written down? So in the beginning you can see that she's in a very like male dominated
with all the imagery.
Yeah.
The only person she fist bumps is another woman.
Mm-hmm. And then on top of that there's when she gets in the elevator and she's wearing the gray sweater and all the guys are in red and she's in the center surrounded by men wearing red shirts and she's the only one that looks different, you know? Both.
She's the one that pops out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just kind of a thing that she's different, you know? And I think that's a very well made thing that's like right in the beginning of the film.
They make it clear what kind of environment she's in, and that they might insinuate that some people aren't gonna like, you know, be not accepting, but like as open to her being in her position. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not like they treat her like shit or anything. It's just like, you know, like the father figure that's always kind of not father figure, but like the mentor figure that's always.
They're kind of father figures. We
can get into that later.
Yeah. Well, I have a written thing down that one of them. So there's Jack. What was his name? Is Jack Crawford, who's the old white dude that's like the FBI director or whatever. Glasses and everything.
The lead director or lead agent.
The man in charge of the FBI.
Yeah.
Not in the FBI.
Just
in charge of that investigation.
in charge of that.
And then you have Hannibal Lecter is the other one that is like the mentor, like father figure.
Yeah, Hannibal's such a.
I wouldn't take after him, but yes, I guess you could say that.
But he, they're the good and the bad mentors, or the good and the bad fathers.
Even though hypothetically, like Hannibal represents the good mentor, the kind mentor, the mentor that helps you get through things, and then Crawford represents the douchebag mentor, the mentor that puts you down in order to make you rise up.
Detective.
You refer to him as Detective Douche. That's funny. There's multiple parts of the movie where he like is just putting her down. Like I think the most notable one is when they're like, because she's been like leading this investigation up like throughout the whole movie. Like she even at the end, spoilers, she's the one that finds the Buffalo Bill and like actually tracks him down. Even after they said that they already found him
and
they were
failed.
wrong. Yeah.
And she's like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna do my own thing anyway."
Yeah. And so, anyways, she's like leading the. I think a big part of it is like he's kind of like insecure, and he doesn't want to believe that a woman can do his job better than he can do it, and so he constantly tries to put her down and constantly tries to not give her chances. And I think that's why, like in the last scene, not in the last scene, but towards the end when they think they found him, she calls him. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, we figured out who it is, and we're heading there right now, and we didn't tell you because." And I think it's because he
wanted it for himself.
Yeah, exactly. Which is another thing we could talk about, the different kinds of psychopaths and sociopaths that are in this. Like
I even commented it on when we were sitting on the couch watching it.
Yeah, the doctor
is a sociopath in his own right.
And he's super it even in the interviews and stuff when they make like a big break with Hannibal's character, he's like, and they couldn't have figured it out without my expertise. and then I remember I was like, what's that guy's name again? Because I wanted to write that down.
Oh yeah.
And then he said his name, and man, where is it?
I literally his name's like Childers or Chilchers or some shit. And then he says it. My name is.
I forget.
I already forgot. Children or something.
Oh, Dr. Frederick something. Yeah, I didn't write down his last name. I just wrote Dr.
Frederick Chilton.
I thought it was Children.
That was funny because I was like, "What's that guy's name again?" He's like, "My name is Dr. Frederick Chilton."
Thank you.
And I was like, "Oh, cool." But he, I think it's like another. This kind of goes back into like the hypocrisy thing from Apocalypse Now, but I think that a lot of the things that go on in this movie is the characters that are judging Hannibal, except for Claire or Clarice. All the other characters are like judging Hannibal and casting a bad light on him
when she's trying to learn from him.
Yeah, and she's trying to learn from him, and all the characters that are judging him are not actually that different from him. They just haven't killed anybody, which is the line, that's like the line between it being illegal and just being normal, even though you share the same characteristics,
That's interesting too. In a way, Anthony Hopkins' character Hannibal is true to himself.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
saying? Same as Kurtz. Kurtz is super true to himself in Apocalypse Now.
Anyway, there's a lot of different things that I kind of noticed. One thing let's just talk about how when she first. Let's compare Clarice's first meetings with Hannibal's character to as she continuously meets him, she becomes more and more comfortable with him.
Yeah.
Even though,
one thing that I really noted was the first meeting, she's following all the rules and all the etiquette and staying away from the glass and is super nervous.
She even touches
close to the glass. And then in the second meeting, she's sitting right up against it, touching the glass and literally right there. And then at the end, they touch the fingers. And I think that's supposed the finger touch at the end when he hands her the papers. I think that's supposed to be their relationship growing.
Yeah.
Moving forward from the point where she won't even come near him to handing things and touching each other without not sexually but
yeah, of course, just as that's just because you touch. That scene reminded me of the scene of the painting. I think it was Michelangelo or something where the dude who is it? Anyway, he's touching God's hand.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not
Which
saying.
is funny because in that same area, later in the movie, he has the guys strung up like an angel, and
or a butterfly or whatever.
Or a butterfly, yeah. I was thinking,
angel immediately.
Yeah, because of the white sheets, it looked like an angel, but it could be a butterfly too. There's a lot of
butterfly makes more sense though because of
the
how
context
the killer was using butterflies.
I was thinking though that for him, he viewed himself as an angel, as a saving grace in a way for the world and what he obviously to him he doesn't believe he's a bad person and he doesn't believe the things that
I think Hannibal knows that he's a bad person, but I mean that's just
maybe it's that he's accepted it.
That's what I was thinking too.
Well, yeah, he's true to himself, so maybe he knows what he's doing. But what I think is that he knows what he's doing and he knows that it's wrong, but it's one of those things again in Apocalypse Now where you know what you're doing is wrong, but it's to get to a good.
What's his ultimate goal? Do you think?
I don't know.
Exterminating mankind.
I wouldn't say that. I would disagree with that because right at the beginning of the movie they were talking about how this nurse got too close and then he just started eating or whatever.
I guess that's true.
That doesn't.
He does what he
There's
wants.
no good intention for that.
I was thinking maybe his good intentions, at least for me, or maybe this is just how he grows as a character throughout the film. is at the end he's targeting Dr. Frederick Chilton or whatever, who's a
Because
pretty
he's a
shitty guy.
Yeah, he's a pretty shitty guy.
Person that kind of put him through mental torment.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
so I was
guess,
thinking
I
that might
guess
be
I
what
can
it
see
is.
what you're saying because he did like help out everyone in that film, and like he did help. What I already forgot her fucking name. Clarice like get to the killer. It was not like explicitly said that she had to figure it out herself, but he still had a factor in helping.
Yeah,
I think he assists those that he's interested in, that he believes can actually. He even mentions it. The world would be a lot less interesting without you. In it, you know?
That's why he won't come after her.
Which is a really fucked up. It's a really big difference to saying I care about you. You know what I'm saying? He's used a very specific sequence of words. You know.
Yeah. What if you heard that from your boyfriend? Fuck.
It
sociopath.
It goes to that thing again where he's kind of like uplifting her in a way, you know, like because throughout the whole movie, Detective Douche, I forget his name already, but Jack Crawford. Yeah, Jack Crawford. Detective Douche, Mr. Jack Crawford. He's always putting her down and always like essentially like trying to make her feel like she's not good enough, you know,
that she wasn't needed, but in fact she was.
Yeah,
he even compliments her a few times, but later on it's like he never mentioned that.
They're always like backhanded compliments.
They're definitely backhanded because like when she called them, he's like, "Oh yeah, we found her," and then he's like, "I won't forget that you helped us tremendously." And before she could even respond, he already hung up.
Yeah.
What always annoys me is that or not annoys me, but what I notice is that despite his obvious treatment of her, she still kind of like is happy whenever she gives him, like whenever he gives her. Yeah, she was always kind of like willingly trying to take his input, or even any type of compliment that he gave her. She was like ecstatic to receive it. Almost, she was always smiling as if she was like, "Oh, he's proud of me" or whatever.
But then she would always just do her own thing. Regardless.
There was something else I was gonna say, but I already forgot. Fuck it.
All right, I kind of want to talk about Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill. Oh well, actually, one thing also that I noticed, and this goes back to Buffalo Bill as well. All of the characters seem to suffer from some sort of childhood trauma that affects them in their adult life, and for some, like Clarice, it's really obvious because it's explicitly stated, and for others it's not explicitly stated, but because that's like a common thread, I feel like all of these characters have some sort of childhood trauma that they have to deal with.
That's what Hannibal said, was that like it was immense torment when they were younger that led them to be this person. Yeah.
That's why I was saying, I think, I said it while we were watching the movie, but I think that Buffalo Bill's character, it has something to do with his mom, and the reason that's the reason that he acts the way that he does, and he targets the specific women that he does. But also because he was making that skin suit, that's why he targeted bigger women. I remember that was like explicitly stated.
He wasn't proud to be in his own skin, so he tried finding someone else's to be in.
Which is pretty
not someone else's. But he wanted to find the different aspects. I guess it was like he took the best from each woman that he could find to create his ideal woman. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think there's a lot of self-hatred going on with his character. For sure. And he
mentions how the character believes himself to be transsexual, even though he's not. You get what I'm saying? But because he believes he is, it's a weird, confusing.
Well, they were saying that because I think in that same scene they said that there was something that he hated about himself, and so for that reason he believed that he was a transsexual, even though he wasn't. But he just because he hated that whatever it was about himself,
figured that was the only possible explanation.
Yeah, that was the answer. And then they wouldn't give him the surgery for that reason, and so then he became a serial killer and started taking people's skin.
I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
All right, Thanos.
But that self-hatred thing, one thing that I wanted to mention too is throughout his whole house there's all the swastikas. And I know you mentioned that was probably a thing that was like just to show his like
interest before he got to this point.
Yeah, and it shows that he wasn't always the way that he was, and it's a thing that happened recently. But I do agree with that, and you said something along those lines too, right?
What were you gonna say? You made a comment. It wasn't a fucked up film without swastikas or something like that. Yeah,
I said it wouldn't have been a fucked up film without swastikas, but that's not what he wanted me to re-say.
You said something after that.
Well, anyways, what I think the swastikas are is because Nazis, obviously, that's what the swastika represents in that context. the Nazis would not be accepting of transvestites. In fact, I would say that they would hate transvestites, right? Or any trans people or anything that isn't what they want, you know. And so I think that the reason he has those up is just some imagery and some like character development to show his own self-hatred for him, or his own hatred for himself, self-hatred,
self-flagellating or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, because he thinks of himself as a trans person, but then he has these swastikas up to remind him that he hates himself, I guess.
That's interesting though.
Yeah,
that's actually something I didn't even make a connection of.
Or if what you're saying is right, where it's a thing that was him in the past, maybe he still has some of those same thoughts.
He did only go after white women.
Yeah, but maybe he still has some of those same thoughts, and so he carries those over into this like future like self-hatred thing, where he still has these thoughts that like he thinks that trans people aren't okay, but then he thinks of himself as a trans person to justify hating himself.
Yeah, that's what makes it interesting, is that you can't actually summarize the mind of somebody like this, or anybody's mind, but specifically the mind of serial killers. You can't. That's the whole reason why they're called serial killers, is because they kill at random and nobody really knows why.
Yeah.
Well, not at random until you figure it out.
It seems at random, but there's always a reason behind it. There's a clear like.
There's a pattern.
Yeah. Eventually, there's a pattern.
It doesn't even have to be a pattern regarding the person they kill. It could also just be a pattern regarding themselves too. You know what I'm saying?
So, what about the moths? Because they do
that symbolize metamorphosis, like the whole cocoon thing down the woman's throat. His metamorphosis into a woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because they explicitly say that the moth, it represents change for him because it's in the cocoon and that's the process. But do you think there's anything more there? Do you think that's just all it is? It's just change.
You brought that up. Do you have anything first?
I feel like there is, because I don't think they would have that symbolism there and explicitly state the symbolism without there being more, because then it would just be boring, I guess. But I couldn't think of anything. There wasn't really anything that I felt like hinted at more.
This is me just saying random shit. Do you think the metamorphosis could also be used in regards to Clarice's character, going from, I don't know, somebody who's
the rook to the official agent?
Rookie to the official agent? I don't know. That's just something random.
Maybe. Well, okay.
Well, that could be said for all the characters in the film, because they all change. I mean, you can't write a good character if they don't change throughout the course of the film.
I would definitely say it was like him breaking out of the cocoon, though, because like he was putting on, like, let's say like his body was that cocoon, and like in that cocoon he was like adding new pieces of whatever he took from someone to himself. So it was like he was turning into a butterfly, and he was eventually
his own butterfly.
He also looked like a bug when he died. He had the things on.
In his desire to look like a butterfly, he died like a cockroach or some shit. You know what I'm saying? He got the fucking night vision goggles.
the night vision goggles.
Creeping up all over her. And I just like how, here's the thing, like, most people would complain in a film where, like, he's got the gun to her and he cocks it. But I feel like, obviously you would think as soon as you cock it, you pull a trigger. You know what I'm saying? You as soon as you flip that switch, you're going to pull the trigger.
I think he wanted to die. Because, so after he dies, the very next shot is of the butterfly ornament thing that spins.
That's true.
So I think that him dying was him reaching his freedom.
That could be something.
Because if the self-hatred thing is true, the only way
to stop that is to die.
Yeah.
So it comes together full circle.
So then he.
I would totally agree with you there if they had more to go for like his death. You know what I'm saying?
If we got
just
more
got
time
more visual
to
stuff
stick with the character, I think that would have.
Yeah.
If he had suicidal tendencies, then I would have totally agreed with you. But that's something that
I'm just thinking that in the imagery that's shown in his death scene, he dies, he falls on the ground and looks like a bug, and then it shows the immediate next shot is the butterfly. So that's like his like metamorphosis to being free, I guess. And it's just an interesting chain of images that makes sense to me, I guess. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
No, it doesn't matter. That's not the point.
That's the thing about movies, is that there's so much interpretation. There is no right answer.
Directors will just create images solely
and let people figure it out. Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even know the answers themselves.
But I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. And it makes sense if that whole self-hatred thing is prevalent throughout the whole movie. It makes sense for him to want himself to die.
If that was the case, I would have liked to spend more time with that killer to see like
you're
more
a freak.
That story.
I did also.
I would just like to understand why he did all this, and then seeing that all come full circle. I feel like we would have had a more emotional attachment to him.
I also noticed the tattoos. Some of them. There's the love one on his hand, which is kind of contradictory. But he had one on his ribs that was like a cut that was bleeding. That I noticed. So that maybe that's more of a self-hatred, self-harm.
I was gonna say that.
Agreed. What I was gonna say a few seconds ago was that like most people would have like just from the sake of like, you know.
Oh yeah.
People have like we had a problem with the the police officer raid scene.
Yeah, they were very cheesy.
But like just that aspect of where he I almost believe that like most people would think, oh, that's stupid. He could have just pulled the trigger or pulled the fucking cocked the hammer back and shot, right? But it's like I feel like his character was just like so convinced that he probably wasn't gonna die here or something like that. That he was like, she doesn't even know I'm here, and then didn't even consider that the click would be something that would give him away. You know what I'm saying?
Like he clearly had the advantage, and he had the drop on.
The whole time he was literally just like trying to reach for her face and shit like that. She she doesn't even know I'm here. She's not gonna know when I fucking kill her, right? And then she realized.
That's interesting.
I think that's how I feel like it went down.
I think that could be a thing. That makes sense for his character. But I also think he wanted to die, so
maybe
I guess
maybe
we'd have
he
to
was
fight.
a bit of both. Maybe he was just a conflicted dude. He's like,
Yes,
I
of course
want to
he
kill her,
was.
but I don't know, so he just did it, and then fate
For some
decided
reason,
for him.
I remember this scene differently. Maybe I watched. Is there? What I really want to see is if there's a director's cut, so we can always watch that sometime down the line too. Because you always gain new information when you see a director's cut. Are you looking that up? One real quick thing. Oh, you guys want to talk about the cop thing next?
Oh, the police raids.
Yeah, just
they were just cheesy. I mean, like from being someone who being someone who has like a very limited knowledge of how to like clear rooms and stuff like that. I like was watching this and watching them like the scene where he checks the elevator and he literally like he has his back to the wall and he puts the gun over here and then peeks his head around the corner and I'm like, that's how to tactically get your fucking head blown
exactly.
off.
Do you want to die? Because that's how you die.
Yeah, exactly. For the audience that is
There's a special edition on DVD.
I'm looking for a director's cut.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying?
Anyways, for the audience that is unaware of why that's stupid, you're supposed to always come around corners and things with your gun ready to fire so that you can shoot first before the other person shoots. Because if you put your head around, you're just exposing yourself. But that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But it was just stuff like that like kind of took me out of it. But it's an old movie.
Yeah, this is before I mentioned this earlier, word for word. This was before Hollywood realized that people actually like to have realism in combat with their films. You know what I'm saying? But they still haven't realized that with sword fighting yet. But they will someday. So like, fucking when you have cops running around like, not even they have their guns in the air and they're like, put your hands up, and they go out like the whole way from the door, and it's fucking. But
I hated the cops when they're in the stairwell. They all had their guns like this with their fingers on the trigger right next to their ear, and I was like,
okay, how about you fall and shoot and go deaf?
Yeah, exactly. But that's just like a nitpicky thing.
Then there was a different era of film.
It doesn't really change the film at all.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot to do with the overarching story and the characters and what the film is trying to do.
And for the cinematic aspect, let's talk about like the cinematic stuff, like the shots, the camera angles. One thing we noticed right off the bat is the really intimate close-ups, where they're looking into the camera. Two things I noticed. It's like they're looking into you, right? First and foremost, it's almost uncomfortable, but at the same time, like, who doesn't want to be looking at Jodie Foster? Because she's gorgeous.
I felt like it was just trying to get us in the moment as like those characters. It's just like,
as if we're there with them learning.
Like we're like Hannibal's talking to us, and it's just like you feel that kind of intenseness when he's staring you down.
I also noticed though that I don't know, maybe this was just me, but I noticed that the only time it did that was when there was characters where there could be some type of not sexual interest, but some type of like. Actually, you know what? It almost seemed like there was a sexual interest. You know what I'm saying? Not like very blatant or anything, but it's just like something potential.
From what character?
Okay, so the first shot we get that with was was her mentor figure, right? The dude, right? That's the first shot.
And
we
then
get that
Hannibal even says later, like,
they want to fuck each other.
Yeah. Do you think he thinks about fucking you?
Yeah, really, really fucking brutal. And then she gets it with Hannibal, which although again I don't think their relationship was necessarily sexual or anything like that at all.
Well, there's a part where
he's drawing her naked or
well there's that, and then also when she comes and visits him when he's in the actual like cell in that like when he gets moved, remember, towards the end of the film, and she comes and visits him when she isn't actually assigned to come visit him, and then he's like, people will think we're in love.
Oh yeah.
So there's it's like
a flirt. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
hint. Other stuff. She's with the dude with the cross eyes.
Yeah, the
He's
scientist.
blatantly flirting with her. She's with her only friend, not only friend, but like her only other female friend.
And they get real intense with those.
That scene was like really intense, or like not intense, but like they were really smiling and like actually like enjoying each other's company. I'm not saying it was romantic or anything like that. It just seemed like something where like I could see something sexual developing.
And then I think in the parts where it's like blatantly sexual, like with Buffalo Bill's character, they zoom in on his mouth, and then he's like, "Do you want to fuck me? Yeah. I would fuck me."
And then he said like 6 times. You're like, "Oh, okay,
and
stop."
he's putting on
He's
like the lip balm and stuff. Yeah, and so I think like as it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable, I think it's meant to make you feel that like sexual tension in ways that make you feel uncomfortable, not in ways that flatter or
seem gratuitous.
Yeah, or glorify it. I guess it's a thing that is meant to make you
personal.
feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh, mission fucking accomplished.
There was some like
that was rough.
Like the moments with who's the other person we see the close up with? The only other person that we see the close up with that kind of tears my fucking theory apart and thinking that there's like a sexual thing is we see the close up with the random girl she's interviewing, right? And we see it more like from the random girl's perspective, it's more like she's looking at the camera, but from Jodie Foster's perspective, it's like she's looking past the camera.
Yeah.
And so it's like maybe there's no interest on this. I don't know. Just something dumb. You know what I'm saying? There's no interest on Jodie Foster's side, but there's an interest on her side. But that's just me fucking seeing dumb shit.
It's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Because that's the only time we see the close-ups, but they're not directly looking to the camera to look at each other or whatever. I don't know.
I remember talking about that was weird though.
Yeah. So
it was weird. Okay.
On that, I guess on that same note of the
camera angles,
not necessarily camera angles, but just the way it's constructed, to the scenes are constructed. There's this famous technique called the bomb under the table technique that was an Alfred Hitchcock thing that he talked about in an interview a long time, and then
you learned about that from Inglourious Bastards, right? From the first scene in Inglourious Bastards.
There's a famous use of it in Inglourious Bastards, and I think it's the opening scene when the
Jewish
Nazis
people are
come
living
in
under
and
the
the
houses.
Jewish people are under the floorboards. But anyways, that's not the point. I noticed it was used twice in this film very effectively. Number one being and this is the one that stuck with me more, was when the two police officers go into the cell and Hannibal has the lockpick. I guess it's a nail, whatever it was. He used it to pick the handcuffs, and we're shown that at the beginning, and then
we're just waiting for shit to hit the fan.
And the cops don't know, so the cops are walking into the lion's den, essentially not knowing that they're walking into, or I guess they know they're walking into the lion's den, but
they kind of think that everything's okay.
And then it like one thing leads to another, and then shit finally hits the fan. Like it, and the thing that I like about it is we're shown the lockpick, and so we know he has it, and it's stuck in our minds, and then we get a close up of him actually picking the lock, and at that point it's just waiting, and you're just like,
waiting to see the fucking bomb explode.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, that was a really tense moment that was really drawn out, and I feel it was really well done.
They took the time for them to put the food down and fucking mind the pictures and roll up the fucking pictures for them.
Yeah.
So you're right, it was extremely well done.
And then the other one was the one where they have the detective douchebag Jack Crawford, and they're raiding the house, but they're raiding the wrong house. And
it's a direct parallel to her walking up to the murderer's house.
And Clarice is actually inside the murderer's house, and then you realize that, but the only thing is that one's not as drawn out, because basically as soon as the audience realizes what's going on, immediately afterwards she sees the moth, and then the audience knows that she knows what's going on, and then shit hits the fan right away, and she chases after him and everything. And then that scene is tense in its own right, and really well done. And I guess it comes up again in the night vision scene, where we as the audience know that he has night vision, and
she doesn't. So at any moment he could just like strangle her to death or something.
And that was all really well done. But I think the best one was the cops coming into Hannibal's cell, and that was also the first time we saw what Hannibal was capable of. Before then we were just told about it.
I also like how they emphasize how many fucking police officers it took to just try to take down or hunt one man. It was like a whole fucking army in there. To show what kind of fear that man could harvest, can what's the word? Can sow in the hearts of men. Sow, whatever the fuck. I'm gonna check the time real quick. It's 32 minutes.
32 minutes.
I have 3 minutes on the timer.
Anything else you guys like to talk about? Any points you'd like to hit on?
Not really. It was just a really good movie overall. It had really well written characters, a lot of deep imagery and symbolism, and a lot more.
The lambs.
Oh yeah, that fucking mention the lambs nonstop.
Yeah.
Screaming
Silence
of the lambs.
The
The screaming of the lambs. Did you silence
that?
them?
That was another thing. Actually, I wanted to mention.
This is what you wanted me to bring up. Was that like at the end of the movie when she catches the killer?
Oh, yeah.
He called her and like congratulated her, but said, "Are the lambs really silent?"
Oh yeah.
And then, which is basically like the thing that haunts her because like of her whole tragic backstory was that the lambs were crying out and that she tried saving one, but eventually that one got killed because she tried saving it. And then she stops this killer, and it's like, okay, you saved this one person,
which is reinforced by the dog that she's holding looks like a lamb, and when she saves her, she saves the dog too, so she saves the lamb. But yes, continue.
But
there's always another serial killer.
But Hannibal got free, and he like said that he's gonna go out to dinner, and then that's like, oh shit,
taking a friend out to dinner.
Yeah. And the last scene is him kind of walking back into society, you know,
disappearing into it.
Basically, like one thing was solved, but there's always another problem. I think that's why he called her, was saying like, despite your heroic actions, there's always a problem to be solved, and like whatever you do, that won't change.
You'll never truly silence those lambs.
Yes, the lambs will never be silent.
I like that, but I also think that it's supposed to be a parallel between the two mentor characters, the two fathers, essentially, of the bad father and the good father. Yeah, Crawford. Because she goes up and she finally graduates from, like, FBI school, whatever. Yeah, training. After it, you only have to take down one serial killer in your training. But so, yeah, she graduates and everything, gets her badge and her medal and everything. And then literally he's standing there in the crowd and she looks at him. And then he like looks at his watch as if like, yeah, I don't have time for this, and walks away. And then when they're at the like final party or whatever, he's like, hey, congratulations, but I'm gonna leave. And he's not there for her essentially. And then immediately after, like literally,
despite that, she's still like, okay, glad you could come.
Yeah. But then the scene immediately after that is the phone call between her and Hannibal. And then Hannibal, the first thing that he asks her is, have the lamb stop screaming, which to me felt more like he cares about her in a way, like, and he's like, are you better now? You know,
that's his psychologist aspect. You know, that's Hannibal's like,
which he was also kind of like her therapist.
Of course, he was supposed to be a psychologist.
Yeah, because he was a psychiatrist. So yeah,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, but that's just what I got from it, and but I also think it could be taken your way too. It might be a thing that he's almost acting like fake to her, you know. Like to her.
That's what I'm worried about his character, is that he's because he's a sociopath, are all of his emotions or all of his connections fabricated just to fit in, you know what I'm saying?
This is just all a facade.
Yeah. And I kind of would like to hope, that's the problem with hoping about a character like that or a person like that, is because as much as you'd like to hope, a mother will always have that hope that her, you know, sociopathic child still has some humanity in him or her, but they're always ready to defy that humanity no matter how easily they fit into society. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was the time. Anything else?
Fuck. There was one more thing. What was it? Come on, I don't want to forget it.
Is it quick?
It was. Fuck. Dude, I want to die.
We were talking about the lambs.
Yeah, we were talking about the lambs.
Detective Douche.
Hannibal.
Buffalo Bill.
Fuck, dude. It's gonna be gone.
Clarice.
It's gone. Fuck.
Does it have to do with Jack's character?
It has to do with Hannibal's character, and yeah, now I remember. Thank God, guys. I love the juxtaposition of a madman, of a psychopath, of somebody who we can't fathom what goes on in their minds. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, this is a man that's very refined. You know, this is a man with taste. This is a man of quality. This is a gentleman for all intents and purposes. This is a connoisseur, not of wine or of you know, lamb chops, but of human flesh and the real nature of a man almost. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like he's a connoisseur, and that's kind of like what I was saying with like his psychological aspect or whatever. He's a connoisseur of that person's of people, not like just literally, but also figuratively in the sense that he can taste what kind of person they are because of the questions he asks them. You know what I'm saying? That was just me saying random shit, but
but also, is it all fake? Because he's
I still think he's really good at telling what kind of people they are.
Well, because like he's a psychiatrist, so it's kind of
a madman is a psychiatrist.
Yeah, it's a little weird how that worked out.
So I'm saying the juxtaposition is extremely.
It's almost like
it's actually fun.
Yeah. It's almost like he is like a genius himself. You know.
Well, he was.
Usually those types of sociopaths.
And it was just very creative how he
does that make him pure evil because he's smart and he does bad things anyways?
Hell yeah. But he does help the good. He helped the good, but only because it benefited him.
It only benefited his escape, though.
Not even just escape. His escape. I don't think he intended to escape. She put him in the position to escape, but or not she did, but everybody else did. I think the only reason it benefited him was through giving him interest or entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Which is fucked.
He's a real sadistic fuck, is what you're saying.
Not even just sadistic. It's just he only cares about himself and the well, whatever.
Yeah, he's the type of character that will tear your moral compass apart, I think. Which is a good character.
He'll get you thinking.
Yeah.
Well, he'll just get you thinking.
And he doesn't do it just for the sake of being I'm so surprising. He does it because he has his own code of morals that are only understood by him.
Yeah.
A sane person couldn't possibly fathom what he's thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. This was another episode, film analysis podcast, GarageCast. Yeah. Appreciate you guys sticking around to the end. We got to do the hat.
Oh yeah.
Forgot. Okay. Who wants to do the honors?
Let me get the list out. Cameron, you grab the film. Please fucking be Conan.
Alright.
So if you missed our last episode or didn't get to the end of the last episode, this is how we pick the next movie. We have 10 movies in this hat.
Are you ready, Sergio?
Yeah, please be number 25, Conan. Please be number 25. Cameron.
Ow! Can't grab it. Alright, so I got 23.
Oh, close.
Kingdom of Heaven Director's Cut.
Fuck!
Oh, that might be rough finding that.
That's gonna take well, we have 2 weeks.
Yeah. Let's pick up a backup one just in case.
Okay, Conan the Barbarian. Let's go. Go back into it, Cameron.
We're only
25.
Why did you throw that one back?
Well, no, because let's fuck it. It doesn't matter.
Well, no.
We're gonna cut it like this, as if this is the first one.
No. This is a backup one.
Shh, it's gonna be the first one, so it's
backup.
cut perfectly,
right.
so no one will know.
It's a backup one.
God damn.
You're a backup one, and the choice is. That's a 41. It's not 14.
Snowpiercer. God damn it.
Okay.
That's a good movie.
If we can't find Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut, then we're doing Snowpiercer.
All right.
Chris Evans after he became Captain America.
It was before he became Captain America.
I thought it was right after. It was right after the first Avenger, dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fucking idiot. I mean,
nice
one.
one.
I didn't even know Chris Evans was in that movie, and I've seen that movie.
So rude, Cameron. God damn.
Okay. Outro time. Thanks for watching. I started getting up before I did the outro.
Because you don't care about us.
Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm Louie.
I'm Cameron.
I'm Sergio.
And this was the GarageCast.
Peace, bitches.